Welcome back to Your Ag Empire, where we roll up our sleeves, dig in the dirt, and uncover the secret to success in the world of agriculture. I'm your host, Jonathon Haralson, a Texas farmer and rancher, farm risk consultant, and commodity coach. New episodes drop on Wednesdays on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, and we'd be honored to have you as a subscriber. Today, I want to talk about those dreaded markets. You see, one of the biggest mysteries in agriculture, I think, is markets. How do we market our stuff the best? And you see, I think a lot of folks lose track that there's several different components to that piece. I mean, you've got your cash sell, you've got your basis, and then you've got the futures. Then we have so many tools that we can use as far as risk management that weren't out 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And so the other thing that I think is it creates this huge mystery is, man, we are so emotionally tied to these markets and what we get. And I get that because it determines our success or failure. But as producers, you've got to take all the tools that you have. That's why we created Empire Ag Marketing, because as a broker, I saw it time and time again. I mean, there's so much stuff flowing out, and all these brokers are jumping on, and they've got everybody running to one side of the ship, and then everybody gets scared. Producer sells, and everybody runs to the other side of the ship. And at the end of the day, the farmer and rancher sitting there going, yeah, that was not a good price. I did not like that. But, I've got a hedge on. And now I'm paying huge margin calls. And I wasn't prepared for this. And now what do I do? What do I do? And so that's what I really pride myself in us being able to establish a clear plan that you can execute, and your banker's on board. He knows what's going on. Your broker's on board. He knows what's going on. And we're working on all aspects of marketing. Marketing's not just pulling the trigger. You got to look a little deeper. You got to know where your cost structure is. You got to know where you're making the money, and is it realistic what your expectations are? And then where is that profitable zone? Is it 470 corn? Is it 440 corn? Maybe it's 510. Maybe it's 5.5. I don't know. Everybody's operation, even though we're all doing the same thing, everybody's operation is so different. And I just think we get bogged down a lot of times when it comes to marketing. I think one of the biggest components that you've got to look at is your bottom line. You've got to know where that accurate break even is. Everything factored in. You can't not pay yourself. You can't be a viable business and not pay yourself. We know that. So we've got to come up with a plan. And I think it's important that we utilize all the tools that we have in order to have those risk management strategies in place. Let's just take cattle. We hit an all-time record high on feeder cattle. How many of you guys hedged? I know a good chunk did this time around. They lived through 14, 15. They don't want to go back. So a lot of guys hedged. That was great. Whether they used futures, options, LRP, livestock gross margin. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that we can play with and use at our disposal. And I think it's important that all of those tools are utilized, properly utilized. You're taking risk that you don't need to. The other thing that I think too that really kind of dampens us and I've noticed it's the paralysis of the analysis. And when we look at trying to keep our operations viable, there's so many things out there. There's so many things being thrown at us. Are you missing out on opportunity to upgrade equipment, or maybe you need to unload some older cows and move into some newer, younger stock? That could be an option too. Can you afford it in a high market? Because what happens in a high market, typically we freeze, because everybody at the coffee shop, everybody that you deal with, talk to, oh, these cattle are high. These cattle are high. These cattle are so high. If you could buy three and ones, a cow gonna calve out, she's bred back, or a cow that's already got a calf on the ground, and she's bred back, and you can buy her for $3,000, 3,100 in this market. Is that a good deal? I mean, let's just think about it. That feeder's going to be worth in January, February about $1,800. So can we hedge the calf crop there? And then now we're sitting on a $1,200, $1,300 bred cow. Hmm. By that time, she's going to be calved out. So what is that pair worth? Say on the low end, 24, 2,500. High end, I've seen as much as $4,000 and $5,000. It's important that you don't miss out on opportunities. I just went to a bull sale just recently. You can sell cull bulls right now for 3,000 to 3,500 bucks. And if that bull's bringing 5 to 6, but I mean, from a genetic power in, you could really upsell your calf crop. You could really get some growth out of those calves. Really upgrade the genetics. That's a small price to pay on a cow herd that you're sitting there if you needed to buy two or three bulls and get rid of the old ones in the back. And too often we freeze. We freeze because the last time we bought bulls, they were 4,000 bucks. And now they're 7, 8, 9,000 bucks. But you take 3 or 4 calves out of your herd and you've paid for them. It's a great market. So I want you to understand that, like, we have got tools in place for you to move and shake and to ease those bankers' fears on your ability to grow your operation. And I think that is huge. There's so many things that are out there. Um, when we look at these markets, is it just everybody gets so wrapped up in it's time for us to do something every day. Like, sometimes I think you need to step away from the screen, forget about it, because there are more things involved nowadays. We have algorithm trading. We have computers that are sitting there and they feed off of each other. You catch a big short, uh, maybe they move 1,000 contracts, and then boom, we've got 4, 5, 6 computers that are all trading the exact same trade, and they're picking up on that movement. They push us down. You get down in the dumps because you see the market moved, but in all reality, it wasn't. It was just computers that were trading against itself. The next day, we bounce back, we trade, and we're trading sideways. That's what we've done pretty much the whole spring right now, is just traded sideways. I mean, we catch some opportunities, but then it'll sell off, and then we'll rally back, and it just sits here and trades sideways. And so it is horrible on your psyche, because as producers, as farmers and ranchers, we need some movement one way or the other. And I'd like to have it before we put the crop in the ground. But in this situation, it's not happening. It's not going to be there. You're not going to have that opportunity. And so you really have got to look outside of your region too. Don't be scared. I was talking to a producer the other day, and I mean, he had an elevator that was like 12 miles away. Wanted to move some corn. I think it was I think it was 60 under. Um, he could go 100 miles away, and I think it was 30 or 40 over on that. So we had a dollar spread. Um, and then the guy was really looking for the bushels. And so, I think also don't be scared to ask. If it's going to take $1.10 for you to move it up there, but you can get even the board, don't be afraid to ask. Negotiation is part of being in business. And I think farmers and ranchers, we are all horrible about this because what do? We call the elevator. What do you give? Nah, today we're 440. Okay, you hang up. Ask the question. They might have a rail car they need to fill. They need 100,000 bushels. You could be the guy. I've seen it over and over and over again. Work with those end users that you can get the price that you need. And it's not always going to be with that guy, but it doesn't mean that down the road somebody else doesn't need corn. It drives me nuts to watch us give away our crops. And then to not realize that, okay, if we have to sell for cash flow, that's okay. But your risk just shifted from downside risk because you've already put your floor in, you've sold the cash, to the upside risk. Utilize a call strategy. You do something. Be involved with your process. If you hold grain from harvest, let's just say October, and you held it all the way until April 15th, and you didn't catch anything, you're actually in the hole. With the carry cost, you needed to get a 7 month times 5 cents. So let's just say 35 cents if you're really cheap on your storage and your carry costs, upwards to, I mean, you might need a 70 or 80 cent rally just to break even from what it was at harvest. Not to mention any downward movement in that market. So I think it's important that we really get in tune with what's going on around us. And I know it's hard because we get busy, we get wrapped up in the day to day, the grind. We got to get the crop out. We got to get this done. We got to spray. We got to. And that gets us in trouble. I can give you all the targets in the world. I can show you the charts. I can show you where things are going to flow to. I can show you where the algorithms have got their price points in for support and resistance. And we can go through all of that and we can have the greatest plan in the world. But if the execution is not there, it's all for naught. And don't be one of those farmers that's looking for somebody to blame. I can give you everything you need. But if you don't pull the trigger, it's nobody's fault but yours. We get so wrapped up in what we're doing day to day. And this takes such a back seat. There's been opportunity after opportunity since harvest. There's been several times that you've had opportunity to sell. And I'm not beating up on you. I'm not beating up on you at all. But it's something that's been on my mind, talking to a couple producers and kind of seeing where they didn't pull the trigger. And I get it. You're looking for that 50, 60 cent rally. I know. I know. You harvested a crop, you spent almost a year producing it. Or you've got that set of cattle that, you know, maybe you bought them a little high and you didn't hedge. And this whole, bird flu fiasco in the dairy industry is wreaking havoc on the cattle market. And it's got you stressed out. You can't sleep. It's created stress at home. Your wife doesn't know why. Why are you so angry? You're just an a-hole. Any of you ever heard that? You've let the market dictate your being. And I will tell you, every Fortune 500 company, the CEOs that are there, if they have an opportunity to make a profit, they make a profit. They lock it in. They try not to take exorbitant just risk out the wazoo. We just don't want to be there. Like that is not the nature of our business. It's not how we stay in business. Volatility creates opportunity, but extreme volatility to the downside creates bankruptcy. And that's not what we want. We're in the business of carrying on the legacy and pushing these farms and ranches to the next level. And so I think it's important that you understand where your level of risk lie. And the other thing is crop insurance plays a big role in your marketing plan. Where is your floor? Do you even talk to your agent about these things? Do you even have the wherewithal to understand the programs that are out there, to even ask? I'm blessed. I've got a great crop insurance agent. He and I strategize every year, and it's part of my marketing plan for our farm. One, because I need to have that base level of coverage, just a CYA. And that is what I try to get first. Then we go to looking at where the market structure is and where our break evens are. And I know it's cliche. Everybody hears it like, oh, break even, break even, break even. But I can't tell you enough how many farmers speak in generalities and it's $30 here, $50 here. It's not real. That's why I say my wife in our last podcast, we talked about using the program that we have plus QuickBooks Online gives us adequate numbers, not just pull them out of the air numbers, real numbers, real numbers that fit your farm. This is what differentiates what I would call the top 10% of farmers. My farmers that are extremely in tune with their numbers and have an adequate budget, they've already called out and priced out all these inputs. Those are the guys that are succeeding and growing. Again, I said volatility creates opportunity. They took chances when others wouldn't and locked in a price. They also knew their input structure a lot better than most because we are the world's worst about just spend it because we got to do it. That's what we've done the last 5 years. That chemical works. That fertility program works. And we just keep on, keep on, keep on the same path that we've always done. And the same can be said on the cattle side. There's a lot of different things we could do as far as efficiency. Utilizing LRP and livestock gross margin can eliminate a lot of stress. You can couple that with puts, calls, anything in the market that you need as far as what if you offset your downside risk, where's your risk? Obviously, you'd have some upside risk. You're not going to be able to partake in the market if we have a 30 or 40 or 50 cent swing in feeder cattle or live cattle. And that is exactly what we have seen in the last really couple months. I think it was around December when we fell off really hard and we spent a good time after the first of the year trying to build that back. And that has been tough, but we've definitely gotten there. So I think you've just got to be really cognizant of that. If you're a stocker operator or you're buying cattle going into the feed yard, you have to have some protection on. I've seen too many times, and I get what these guys are saying on you have to buy every week. and you have to sell every week and you don't need a hedge. I get that, but not everybody can do that. Not everybody can sit there and have a truckload leaving and a truckload coming in every week. I mean, they can't do it. And then when the cash trade shifts and maybe you skip a week or what have you, then all of a sudden you're underwater. And I just think a guy needs to have himself hedged. And I'm not an advocate for over trading. I'm not. I don't think you have to have anything on at any given time. I think you can be in and out of the market as you see fit and given those things that we just talked about, those tools. Cattle side, livestock gross margin, LRP, great tools. The crop side, crop insurance is huge. It is huge. We have to have adequate coverage. And I think a lot of guys don't. A lot of guys just take whatever the cheapest thing is because I'm not going to have an issue. I'm not. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that now, especially in a declining market where insurance prices were set up here and now cash prices here. That's where we're going to trigger some sort of a revenue protection. That was a great put option that you put on with your insurance, like on wheat. I think it's important for us to kind of look at crop insurance in that mindset. And then look at that dollar cost. Look at what that put cost you, or shorting the board at that whatever level it is. Look at that. Look at the margin risk that's out there, the exposure that you've got, and make sure it fits your financial situation. I think it's huge. I think it's huge. I'm not an advocate for just going out here and spec trading a bunch of stuff. I'm not. I've watched over the years, and a lot of guys, uh, they've made good money, and then a lot of guys have lost good money. And so I think you've got to really kind of find a good happy medium. I think you've got to really study up on the technical analysis so that you know what's going on. Um, I think the fundamentals, while it's good for us to know, don't get so bogged down into the fundamentals that you can't see the forest for the trees. Because sometimes we lose track of the direction, the true direction. And I think you've got to really pay attention to that. I think, you know, utilizing the targets and everything that is set out there, where the algorithms are. There's so many different things as far as support and resistance levels that we've got to keep it in mind. I think it's important we use all of those tools combined to make those decisions. Couple that with your financials, then we've got a great idea as far as where your break even is and where your profitability zone is. So if you're looking at your farm and you're saying, hey, I want to net all bills paid, I want to net $200,000 at the end of the day. Like, I want all bills paid. I want to be able to put that in my checking account. Build your plan around that. Set a goal and follow through. And have a plan where if that market doesn't give us the rally to get to, maybe it's 504 or 510 on corn. If it doesn't hit there, we're second best. Where do we need to be? And go ahead and put those orders, put those good to cancel orders in now, so that at 4 o'clock in the morning in the overnight trade, 60 days from now, it hits and you've got yourself covered. Because 60 days from now, when you wake up and we're actually there, you're going to say, is it going to 540? You think I could squeeze 540? Or do you think I could get 560 maybe? I was looking at that chart and I think we can maybe get there. And I think that is huge when we're looking at this from a risk management standpoint, because 90% of the work most of you are doing, 90% of the work, where the market is. The 10% is actually pulling the trigger. And that's where I see a lot of farmers and ranchers fail. That's it for today's episode of Your Ag Empire. Guys, like, subscribe, help us spread the message. We want to help farmers and ranchers all over the United States. Let's help get this out. With that, be good or be good at it.